9:16. Welcome back to the morning show with Jeff and Will. It's AM 1700 WRCR Haverstraw, WRCR.com. Joining us now, Tina Traster from the Rockland County Business Journal. Good morning, Tina. How you doing?
I'm okay. Good morning, Rockland Land. How is everybody?
Rockland Land is doing swell. Thank you very much. Before we get into anything you wanted to talk about, I did want to ask you, did you hear the news about, or I don't know if you've covered it yet or not, so I forgive me if you did, but the shops in Nanuet apparently has been sold.
So about that, about that, there's a reason why no legitimate news organization has reported that.
True that, but that's what I'm hearing this from real estate sources now this morning.
Okay, yes, there are a lot of rumors flying around. I have spoken directly to the alleged purchaser, but he's not speaking at this time. Look, you can't control what people post on Facebook, but the legitimate work of reporters is to verify with documents and sources that something is true, and to provide the details around the thing that you are, quote-unquote, reporting versus echoing what you've heard and then sort of slapping together pickpocketed information from other news sources. So my point is this. It may be true that Gabe Alexander has purchased the shops at Nanuet or some portion of that land. We don't know yet. We're chasing it down. We're speaking to sources. But until we have verification, until we see documentation, it's just irresponsible to go out there and report, to put that out there and to sort of masquerade it as news when really it's just something that has been heard, but without any kind of actual verification. I
100% agree with you, because I know what you're referring to, and I saw that report over the weekend, and I'm like, well, there's really nothing here that's proof, really, of this actually happening. Simon, which is the owner of the property currently, has not said anything about it or published anything about it. But we did speak with our good friend Naomi Stryker, who is involved in real estate here in the county and has a segment here with us every morning. She had indicated that something was going to be breaking this week and indicated that last week, and then called back to remind us, oh, yeah, by the way, here's what we were talking about. And she's apparently friends with Mr. Alexander and knows that the ins and outs about it, and she says that it was a done deal. She said that on our air this morning. So that's why I brought that up, not just based on the other reporting you were talking about.
I anticipated that you would bring it up, and obviously people look to Rockland County Business Journal for stories, especially like that. But we don't write a story on the basis of a Facebook post that a former public official has put on a Clarkstown Facebook page. We rely on documentation. We verify and we corroborate. And, I think, as I started to say before, the frustration that you're hearing in my voice here is there are so many erosions to the fourth estate. There are so many ways in which journalism is being, challenged, that when we see that kind of thing, when I see that kind of thing here in the community, it's just very disheartening. It makes the job of genuine reporters all the more difficult. But I think that you can see all these days later that, as I said to start, no legitimate news organization has yet come out with this yet, because nobody's been able to find the documentation needed and the details, that are needed to yet report out this story. Now, will it get reported out this week? We're on it. I'm sure there are other legitimate news outlets that are on it. But again, it's like just the erosion of what counts as journalism is what's disheartening. We will see. You've got the Sears buildings that are involved here. You've got the shops at Nanuet itself. It's very hard to know what's been purchased, but until we know, And when we know, believe me, we'll report it. But we don't know. And it doesn't make sense for people to come out there and report it on the basis of what they've heard. That's not reporting.
Indeed. No,
So,
100% agree.
yeah. So what we do know, and what we are going to talk about right now, is something that's interesting, kind of seems low-key maybe at this time of the year, but really feeds into a much bigger issue, and that is we put out a story today about Rockland County has gone back to the courts for the second time in how many years? I don't know, almost 3 years, to try to get records from a company called Swimply. Now, if you've never heard of Swimply, that's not probably a huge surprise. It either means that you don't have a backyard pool that you're planning on renting out to strangers, or you're not somebody who was looking to rent a pool in Rockland County or elsewhere. Swimply is compared to Airbnb or VRBO. It's a company, it's an online site that matches people who have backyard pools and people who want to rent them by the hour. Swimply also does hot tubs, pickleball courts, and tennis courts by the hour. And let's talk about why this is problematic in Rockland County. It's problematic because, first of all, swimming pools there has to be a certain amount of oversight for swimming pools when they're at a commercial scale. It has to do with, whether or not, for the county, which began to investigate this issue in July 2022, they were investigating whether these pool renting practices violated sanitary health codes. So Rockland County issued a subpoena to Swimply looking for its records to figure out who here was renting out their pools. We know that even as of today, there are still maybe about a dozen people who are still doing this, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. But Rockland County went to court, filed a subpoena, tried to get the names of people who were renting backyard pools. Again, also according to New York State, you're supposed to get a permit if you're doing this, and so clearly, this was not happening. And even though they served this subpoena in August 2022, the Supreme Court Justice Christy D'Alessio, who I believe has gone back to Westchester, dismissed the case and refused to enforce the subpoena, saying that the county had not complied with a court rule requiring parties to make a good faith effort to resolve the matter outside of the court. Now, I don't know why she didn't simply make that part of the proceedings. I don't know why she had to dismiss the case, although it was dismissed without prejudice, meaning that the county could refile it, and that's exactly what's happened. The county did refile it in February of 2024. So they've issued a new subpoena, and the legal wranglings continue. The county's spokesperson told us that we believe there is no valid reason for Swimply to withhold the requested materials, and they fully expect the process to succeed in securing the necessary records, end quote. Swimply, on the other hand, says, no, Rockland County, you don't have the authority to investigate this, that you cannot justify the need for this investigation. Swimply maintains that they don't own these pools. Obviously they don't. They either, they're a platform, right? So that they're making that as an argument. They're saying that Rockland County is on a fishing expedition. And now the thing is that this raises an interesting parallel issue that's been going on in the county for a couple of years that we've also been paying close attention to. And that is short-term rentals, because this kind of really fits under that umbrella. And as you know from the many times we've discussed short-term rentals, we know that at least Clarkstown, Orangetown, and Stony Point are all municipalities that have cracked down on short-term rentals and that have made it more difficult for things like Airbnb to operate in the county. Now, Pomona has not, not Pomona, Ramapo has not, and many of the villages have not issued short-term rental bans either. So it's kind of a checkerboard. But interestingly enough, in the state, New York State, and we just put a story up. We just posted this this morning. So take a look at this. This is a column that we have that David Carlucci does for us, where he explains what's going on at the state level. And in this case, the state is just taking its first of its kind short initiative for a short-term residential rental registry program. And this does not usurp the local laws in any way, but it does give the county the ability to demand that any service, anybody offering a short-term rental would have to register. So Rockland County, appears to have an interest in controlling or being informed about short-term rentals, given its pursuit of Swimply, and it'll be interesting to see if they that they exercise that control. It's something that they would have to opt into in the state, opt into with the state legislation. Just to go back to the Swimply thing for just a moment. I don't know if you've ever lived next door to or lived close by to one of these properties that do this kind of thing. But back in 2023, there was a homeowner who was doing this in Blauvelt, I believe it was. And, cars down the street and the noise and all the nuisances that you can imagine when 50 or more people pile into a backyard for a backyard party, and the noise and the behavior in the streets and what have you. So there was a situation where the homeowners were coming to the town hall, and they were complaining about it, and they were very upset about it, and they felt that it was a safety issue and a quality of life issue. And then shortly after that, this was very interesting, Orangetown amended its code to ban the short-term renting of any outdoor spaces, including swimming pools, spas, playgrounds, and yards in residential zones. So they made it very, very, very specific. And what I'll leave you with here is just
real quick. You got to wrap it up in 5 to 10 seconds.
Okay, current listings as we speak in Congress of a party pool, 90-degree pool for 35 people. Our house is generally booked until late at night because it's technically a party pool. We have disco lights in both gazebos and party speakers that light up. As an aside, hookah, smoking allowed, and implores guests, quote, just don't leave traces of what happened. So that's what we're dealing with.
And it'll be an interesting fight to see how that turns out. Thank you very much, Tina Trasta, for joining us as always. Go to rcbizjournal.com, sign up for email newsletters. You can check out all the stories that she's got there. Thank you so much, Tina. We'll talk to you again next Monday.
All right. Have a great week.